Right, so welcome to 2023 QRM session. We'll be looking at section B, which is essay questions, and we are asked to find or solve any four. Now, like I said, our exams will be qualitative and quantitative, so I'm sure we are aware about the briefing. This is just quantitative. We will do qualitative as well, and mostly practical side of it. Qualitative is much more simpler than quantitative because you just be asked about questionnaires, advantages of questionnaires, the research designs that are there in qualitative, the sampling techniques that are there for qualitative study. So knowing quantitatives gives you a cutting edge advantage on how qualitative should be answered. Okay. So more often than usual, students get to be intimidated by the nature of qualitative because they think it's more on what to remember in terms of in the proposal. It's just an application of your knowledge that you've actually gathered, assuming that you know what how to go about when you're doing or conducting a research. So, however, we'll still go back to that revision sooner or later. I think probably over the weekend, our sessions will be intense, so we should be able to cover most of it. So now let's look at the question. These are scenario-based questions. In the last sessions, we looked at how we can go about answering a conceptual framework kind of an arrangement question of your own study and whatnot. I also give you tips on how to go about when you find a scenario-based question. Obviously, we do know that if it is coming from Dr. Sultana, we expect scenario-based questions. These are automatically, as they test your ability to understand the PPTs, I mean the PowerPoints, yeah. So we can have the scenario-based questions. We cannot fail to have the scenario-based questions because they're part of quantitative. All right, so that's why we have to look at how to solve these questions very, very well. If you look at this paragraph, this section B, these scenario-based questions, every single time when you find a scenario-based question, run to the questions first to look at what we're asked to do. State the aim or the major objective of the study. We've also been asked to find the three specific objectives of the study. We have to formulate a statistical hypothesis and suggest an appropriate research design. Research methodology, corresponding design, and data analysis procedure, then we justify. We get free 20 marks. These are free because the answers are right with you in the exam. Scenario-based questions are the easiest because they're the only questions that you get in the exam that have good answers within the exam. Okay. Slide-based questions, I call them. These are the ones that are very tricky and you may want to be extra careful because if she asks you to enumerate the types of research designs, you have to find them exactly as they are. But you can get a mark for getting a different answer here, but just testifying. All right. So we are trying to look at these four questions here. So with these questions in mind, let's go back to our paragraph. So I have read through this, at least a glance of it, not all of it. So you and I, the tutor, and you, the listener, the students, are at the same level in terms of the contents of this. Therefore, if you have a bit of a submission to make, just type in the chat bar. But I wanted to have this to show you how easy it is to answer because I haven't gone through this paragraph. Of course, I think I've glanced at it, but I didn't really go through it intently, which makes it easier for you to follow what I'm going to do because I don't know what's in the content of the paragraph. So I open the paper and I find all these long things and I don't have the time. What do I do? I rush for the aim and the objective of the study, which I do know that Dr. Sultana probably provides for them in the final closing of the paragraph, the ending of the paragraph. It's there, but it's very often that you find it in the opening of the paragraph. She normally finds words like, it was from this backdrop that this study conducted, it was from this thought, it was from this idea, all those kind of sentiments. So, statements. So you could have the answers pinpointed right at the bottom here. So I have not read this, but what I can see here is that employees can develop self-efficacy, and hence the focus of the study was to, okay, so employees can develop self-efficacy, and hence the focus of this study was to understand how perception of self-efficacy influence leadership among bank managers in Lusaka, Zambia. This right here is the main objective, plainly in the exam. Yeah, this very when this exam was written, it's plainly in the exam, which makes it very easy to you to understand. How do I know that this is objective? Because I do know, if you watch the previous session where we looked at the X variables and the Y variables, I can clearly see here that this study, this is a statement obtained or extracted from the topic itself. So in an event where she asks you or you are examined on what is the title of the study, you just, from the very same objectives that you have, the main objective that you've been given, do a reverse kind of thinking where you just obtain the objective right from here. Okay, so let me try to write it on the board and show you what exactly I'm talking about. So, so the focus of this study was to, this is a topic, let me just get it and put it here. This is the study, yeah? This is the focus of the study. But this right here is the main objective. So the first question, you already have 4 marks. But what if she asks you what the title is? You do a reverse kind of thinking from here, which you just speak perception of self-efficacy influence leadership behavior among. So this right here is this is the topic. Okay. Yes, I'm aware. I just pause a little bit. So the topic itself, all right? So great. So having obtained the topic, we've agreed after reading through, after reading through all this, that the focus of the study was to undertake, was to understand how perception of self-efficacy influences leadership behavior among bank managers in Lusaka, Zambia. All right. One of the tips I could also give you here before I even go into the objectives is that you can see how straightforward the topic is. Okay. In case you're asked in qualitative, find your own topic and pick objectives from it. Your topic that you ought to do has to be very specific, not wordy. This is from Research 101, Quantitative Research Lecture number 1. Your lecture number 2. Your topic title has to be all right. So the first thing is to look at the way the nature of this topic has been extracted. That its perception of self-efficacy influence leadership among bank managers in Lusaka. So first and foremost, identify what variables here are being involved or have been explored. remember, it is key to know that the wording of your topic has to be very simple and straightforward, and you have to have a location, or it has to be specific. The location where your study is going to be conducted on has to be mentioned in your study, you know. So this is a case study because we're looking at bank managers. I mean, it's not a case study because we don't have one specific bank. So we have got a lot of banks. If it were a case for one bank, say ABSA, then you can say a case for ABSA or a case for, Zanaco or whatever bank we're using. But it's not just one bank. This is multiple banks. So I would draw out for it to be a case study in this sense. In often cases, case studies are mentioned as in a case for this, a case for that, a case for this, a case for that. But then when we're looking at this kind of a topic, right from the onset, you need to identify your variables. Students get it all the time wrong when you just jump into writing the topic, and then you're forgetting that she'll ask you what the design is. And if you don't know what the research design is, if you do not know what your variables, the nature of your variables are, you're going to get the data analysis wrong, the sampling wrong, and the design wrong. But the answers are right in the exam. Okay, so this is the research topic. This is the research main objective. The focus of this study was to understand how perception of self. This is the main objective. Alternatively, you can actually just say the perception of or assessing the perception or assessing or examining the perception of self-efficacy, influence, or leadership, blah, 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 blah. In other words, you can even omit these, or understanding the perception of self-efficacy, that's still fine. But try as much as possible to stick to the words used in this. I have seen students who thought that for example, the case study is maybe it's nearer to what you do, your field of expertise. And then you just realize you know much more than what has been in the case study. The moment you add your words to the objectives, as in you change your objectives and you rephrase it in your own words, you get it wrong. You only link the variables between the X and Y when you're trying to align it in a sentence. You don't create an entire sentence in your own words. All right. I'll delve on that later on. But this is the main objective here. The focus was to, if you write it as the way it is, you've gotten it correct. And if you write it as the way I've written it below, as in the title, this is the title, you've gotten it correct. So if a title is, let's say that the title that we've been given is something that looks like this. Let me just dwell on this a little bit more because I know most of these questions will be coming around this. Let's say the effect of good governance, yeah? Okay, so good governance on the economy. Okay, I will not say just economy, I'll say economy of Zambia, so that I'm talking about one Zambia, one nation anyway. Right, so if I phrase it this way, this becomes my topic. But you may be asked, what is the main objective of this? And like I just said, it's simple grammar or English really. Just say assessing, okay? Assessing the what? So assessing the effect of good governance on blah, 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 blah. And you continue like that. And that's all. All right. So you don't have to think much about this. Just know if the title is this, the objective is this. So have you ever wondered why she's giving you 4 marks for just stating the main objective? The idea is this: she needs you to know the topic, because in the next question she'll ask you about the objectives. You need to identify the variables involved. Okay, so let me just delete this and show you what I'm talking about. For example, in this example that I've given you, quickly, by now you should know, you should have gotten a bit faster in identifying these things. Okay, so we've got good governance as what variable? X. Economy as what variable? Y. And the very same thing I'm telling you here are the things that will be asked in qualitative. So is why I was saying that it's very simple. Okay, identify the variables, define what a variable is, you know. So this X variable is the one that is affecting the Y variable. The Y variable is an independent, is a dependent one, depending upon the independent variable. Now, there are factors of good governance that there are factors associated with good governance. Okay, it could be the policy, the taxation policies, it could be the fiscal and monetary policies. I don't know. There's so many factors on good governance. The democracy, the stability of blah 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 blah. Anything that has to do with good governance, every one of it becomes the X variable 1, X variable 2, X variable 3, and the very same pertinents of good governance are the ones that become the specific objectives. For example, if I say democracy, okay, if I say democracy, okay, let me just say for argument's sake here that one of the identified variables is I've identified, okay, something that has to do with good governance. So what I'm trying to show you is your thinking pattern as you are doing your qualitative and quantitative, because every single time she asks you find the objectives, even in the case scenario, before you even rush to that, you already know that you'll be looking for factors that have to do with what? Self-efficacy, influence of leadership behavior. These are what you'll be looking for. You'll not be looking at bank managers. No. You're looking for these X variables that are associated vis-a-vis with what? The bank managers. So at the moment, you discard, you get rid of these bank managers for now. You just focus on the X variables because this is where the objectives come from. Okay, away from that, let's get back to our simple hypothetical research question, which is the research paper, which is focusing on good governance on the economy of Zambia. Okay, so I'll say, let's say democracy, really hypothetical. Okay, let's say democracy, democratic governance is part of this. All right, then let me also assume policy. Okay, let me just say tax policy, or these are income tax policy on the economy. These two I've given you really just as enough. So from these identified factors, what do I do with them? I drag them onto the objectives. So what do I do with factor number 1? I say that my objective, my specific objective is to assess, okay, so to assess the effect of democratic governance or leadership on the economy of Zambia. Have you seen I have completely gotten rid of this good governance? I'm not saying democratic leadership caused by good governance. No, that's wrong. That's a wrong objective. What do? I pick the factors I've already identified and link them onto the economy of Zambia. That's why even in the perception of self-efficacy and influence leadership behavior, I can show you where these are obviously in here and you pick them up. But remember, in the exam, you'll not have the same scenario. She never repeats the case scenario. She's never repeated. So you have to know these techniques of how to think about it as you're going to be going about your paper. Okay. All right, so let's finish up quickly because time is running out. So we've got democratic democracy. So we say to assess. All right, I would like to write this. So I'm going to say the specific objective number 1 to assess. Let me say to assess the effect of democracy. So notice also that I'm not going to leave out the other Y variable on the economy, okay, on the economy of Zambia. All right. Then I say objective number 2 is to assess. So I've already, you can say examine or assess, still one of the same thing. So to examine the influence, what was the other objective? Tax policy, all right, really hypothetical. So to examine the influence, I've just used influence of where's my keypad? Of tax policy on the economy of Zambia. So this is what you should be thinking like, okay? This is the way you should be thinking like as you are trying to come up with these objectives. Of course, you can come up with multiple of these. Okay, so I'm just giving you a little bit of a throwback of where we're coming from in terms of stating our specific objectives. One, they must be goal-oriented. Two, they must be really short and straight to the point. Three, they must show the relationship between the independent variable, and clearly from what we have here, I have democracy, I have influence of tax, I mean, I've got tax policy, and then I've got the independent variable, which is the same throughout, which is, the dependent variable, same throughout, which is the economy of Zambia. All right. So I keep repeating on the economy of Zambia, Do not get bored by it. That's the way this is answered. And most likely that's how it's supposed to be done, even in your research papers that you've already submitted. Okay, so that's on the democracy. So these are the variables you can include. So if we went back to our question paper, that is asking us what are the specific objectives what are the specific objectives of the study? Okay, pardon me for that. So if you're asked what are the specific objectives of the study, we are looking at 6 marks. We only have to state 3 and we'll be given 2 marks for each. Very easy. And we already have them written in the passage. Okay. All right. So now let's look at the variables associated with this. Excuse me a second. All right. Okay, so pardon me for that. So we look at objectives. So if you've read this through, I'm sure which you have by now, you could have already identified them. Okay, so I already have them with me, so I'll just paste them here. If you go through them, if you disagree with me, it's still fine. Please, it's very, very fine. I have mine with me. So we have things that are beginning with 2. I told you I haven't really gone through this, so I'm trying to look at them quickly. So the importance of blah blah from a business was to help leadership to transform their strategies into helping others. Okay. So remember what we are looking for. Yes, we remember what we're looking for as we've already identified the variables. We are looking for the we're looking for factors that have to do with self-efficacy. Anything that has to do with self-efficacy, we can put it as an objective, and she's going to mark you. Okay, so self-efficacy, influence leadership, behavior, anything associated with that, if you just put it as your specific objective, you get a mark. All right, anything unassociated with that, you not get a mark. All right, so let's look at this again and see what we're looking for: self-efficacy and leadership. Okay, so I have already seen something here. Let me show you. Okay, I already have something here. Remember, we have to put the X variable identified and the independent variable identified, which is, in this case, the what? The bank managers. So this has to do with mainly it's an exploratory research design because we don't have, it's not showing an effect of what on the other, but we're only exploring them. And I've already given an answer to the next question, which asks on the research design. So she's not in the topic that we have. It's a peculiar topic, unlike, oops, where has I gone to? Okay. Okay, so unlike the other topics that we had, which we are looking at, which showed you a relationship between the X and Y variable, this topic right here simply just shows you the variable 1, which is X, and it is just showing you how, or exploring whether these how these self-efficacy influences affect the behavior of bank managers. So self-efficacy leadership behavior, okay, so it's one thing among the bank managers. All right, so are these influencing, how are these influencing bank managers? Clearly there must be some pertinence of self-efficacy, but have you noticed that there isn't anything to do with behavior of bank managers in terms of how the performance? We don't know whether this is causing the performance to go low or the performance to go down, but all we've been told is that there is some self-efficacy, the perception of self-efficacy influences the leadership behavior among these bank managers. So in other words, I think from what I'm talking about, I've even identified that leadership behavior is what we're looking for. Self-efficacy, influence, leadership behavior. Oh yeah, I found it actually. So self-efficacy is now what we are looking for as the X, and leadership behavior is the Y. All right, so I've just realized that now, because we have got influence, we've got self-efficacy, influence, leadership behavior. So we have got leadership behavior as the X, the Y, and self-efficacy as the X. So as we'll be stating this, we'll always have to put on leadership behavior among bank managers. Whatever self-efficacy traits we're going to find, or whatever these associating factors we're going to find. Okay. So I've shared this paper in your group. So if you haven't looked at it, just simply have a glance at it and see what you will have. Okay, so what I'm seeing here, to implement a change, exactly there's need for organization of employee, blah, to stop new behaviors, blah, 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 blah. So helping understand. Okay, so this right here is just, this right here is not useful. So the findings of this study can provide important information. Okay, this is now the significance of the study. All right. So what are the importance of your study? In case maybe the qualitative lecturer asks you what the significance of study is, Dr. Satan doesn't ask you apart from the design and the research, but the significance of study is just the most important things here at the bottom. So it means I've discarded this first top part quickly, and if I go on top, returning blah, 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 the business, blah, blah, blah. So so based on the fact that changes are vital for a modern blah blah, and then to implement change successfully, there is need for organizational behavior to adopt new behaviors in order for the changes desired to be realized. So the importance of conducting this study, okay, the importance of analysis from a business context was to be realized. Was that it can help business leaders transform. We've got this. The importance of conducting this study from a business context was that it can help business leaders to transform their strategies into helping understand the role of efficacy, leadership qualities. So, so have you seen this? Motivation level and internal resource utilization and identification level, where the association between leadership and personality type has been a subject of focus by many practitioners. So these are the variables we've been given. I really adore the way this lady thinks. You see, she doesn't give you explicitly where to spot them, but she uses the word like association. Where is it? association. And I've been talking about this, where if you look at the X variable and the Y variable, then you know what I'm talking about. So personality here, or leadership style, is what we are looking at as the Y variable. And she says motivation level and internal resource utilization and identification. So this motivation level, internal resource utilization, and identification level, where the association between leadership and personality type has been a subject of focus by practitioners and scholars. So self-efficacy deserves better exploration. See that? So business lack can deliberately improve the performance by various sources that can help develop self-efficacy. Additionally, there's a high demand for skilled leaders. So this is just the essence why this is significant. All right. So the role of business leaders have changed in the organization. So employees can help, hence the study of this side also. So you see that? So here, what you target is what is associated between what and what. There is leadership, where is my main objective? There is leadership behavior, and then there's self-efficacy. So leadership behavior or style is what we are looking at. And then there are factors associating them being influenced by the other factors, which are in the Y, which are in the X variables. So here, motivation level is your first thing. You've pinpointed the variable. Motivation level is associating with self-efficacy. Internal resource utilization is associating with self-efficacy. Identification level is also part of it. Remember the rules of your objectives. They must not have two or more objectives in one. For example, to assess the effect of democracy and tax policy on the economy of Zambia. No, that's not specific. That's very general. Specific means one thing, okay? You don't have more than one variable in your specific objectives, no. So whenever you see a passage which has got, the study was focusing on democracy and tax policy and how so we just say democracy and, meaning democracy will be your own thing, tax policy will be your own thing, and the other things mentioned will be the identified things. So it was a bit tricky for these. I don't know if somebody even got it correct. I don't even know if my objectives are also correct anyway, but there's so much logic in what I'm saying. So you get the very same highlighted points, which are one, I would get motivation level, internal resource utilization, and international and identification level. All right. These are the three factors I'm finding as to be associated with self-efficacy from the passage I've been given. All right. Therefore, how do I state them? So this is how I state them now in the objectives. Okay, quickly, time is now running out. Let's state them quickly. Self-efficacy and where that. All right. And bingo. So what do I type? Great. So this is the line extracted from there. Motivation level. So these are what I'm postulating as the variable factors. So I'll say then that the specific objectives are, okay, so specific objectives are, remember, these are just OX variables. The Y variable has been given already. And remember where we're coming from with the topic. So that is why I was telling you, she's not giving you 4 marks just for you to know the objectives, the main objectives. She's giving you 4 marks so that you can know the topic, because when you're phrasing the objectives, you extract it from the topic. Okay, so for example, the thing that we have here is motivation level, meaning we'll pick motivation level and put it here in the given question. Okay, so allow me to just get this so that I don't waste a lot of time, and then bring it here. And then I'm going to say that specific objective number 1 is to, so I'll pick the very same motivation level. Okay, so I'll say to examine the influence of, okay, so motivation level. All right, let me first, oops, what's going on now? Okay. Oh, it's gone. Zoom, really? Okay, great. To examine the influence of, all right, we're back. To examine the influence of motivation on, and I just get on the very same on leadership behavior among banks. So this is my first objective, and I'll get 2 marks for this. So if you just thought it would just be as easy as getting it ABC, she doesn't even say the objectives of the study were to, no. She might just say the main focus. She might say the associating factors where those very same associating factors are your key pointers. Believe me, if you're doing this on your own, it's impossible to note that unless you've had experience in this. So I'm open for discussions on this because these are open-ended questions, really. We can have them to discuss. So the next thing is I'm going to pick internal resource utilization. So I will say to examine, or let me say, something is too much. Let's say to assess the internal resource utilization, okay, utilization on, I pick the very same things. Do not even feel bored. I'm just pasting this because I'm using a laptop, but if you're writing, you have to write it again. Okay, to ascertain, how do you spell that? However it's spelled, anyway, time is up with us. To ascertain the I'll use the same words, influence of identification level on, I bring back the same thing. Great. And I'm done. And I'll get my marks from here. So you cannot possibly just guess these things. Have you noticed why I haven't, all I have just put is to and examine. Everything here in terms of influence on blah, 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 I have just extracted them. The variables, I've just extracted them from the passage itself. I'm maintaining everything written in the paragraph. I'm maintaining everything written in the case scenario. This is to maintain her thought, because the next question then asks us, so those are the 3 objectives. The next question is formulate a statistical hypothesis. Very easy. Remember, I explained in the previous session that there is a difference between a statistical hypothesis, a correlational hypothesis. Those are different. Those are different types of hypothesis. So quickly, let me show you how the statistical hypothesis will look like. So we have what we are saying, the statistical hypothesis. All right, the statistical hypothesis is that I say H naught. If she asks you what is the hypothesis, there's no need to say this. But if she asks what is the statistical hypothesis, you say this. So you say there is a statistically significant effect over, then you bring in what your topic was. Now you see why you need to know your topic regardless of her not asking you about the topic, isn't it? So you go back to where the topic is, and I'll pick it as I just extracted it from there, and I'll bring it here. So it means that, let me put this in a different color. Great. So it means that my statistical hypothesis is there is a statistically significant effect of self, all right. Number for no for now. Chipe says no for now. Okay. The number for the now, but I don't know if you're asking about the question which you're tackling. Unfortunately, I can't hear you. You may want to type it again. But I'm handling question number 2B, 2C. And I am this 2C. Yeah. That's the one I'm handling. And we're looking at the statistical hypothesis. So I'm saying the null hypothesis is that there is a statistically significant impact of this. Okay, she just logged in again. All right, so let me just continue because there's no time here. So there is a statistically significant effect of self-efficacy influence on leadership behavior among bank what? Yes, so this reads right. So that's your null hypothesis. Then the alternative could be H1. So it doesn't matter really whether it's H1, H0, or it's H2, H3, as long as there's one and then there's another. It doesn't really matter. So the other one will be the opposite of what you just stated. So I will say there is no, and I'll just begin with what I wrote on top, statistically significant effect of self-efficacy on blah, 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 blah. Great. So this is your statistical hypothesis, and you get this correct. If she asked you what is the correlational hypothesis, then you might want to say, you have to put it as in a relationship format. Okay, there is a positive relationship between that, and then there'll be a negative relationship between that. And all the time you state the now and the alternative. You just don't give it one. All right. So let's now conclude on the appropriate research methodology, corresponding research design, and analysis procedure. When you're asked on the, okay, okay, there's a question that's saying now states no. Oh, okay. I mean you're trying to say that now means no. Okay. That's still fine. Thank you for that. I'm sure the conveying is that when we say now, it must be a negative, and we say the alternative, it must be the positive. Oh yeah, then that's fine. That's fine still. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So it implies if you say H naught implies there is no statistically significant, and then H1 means there is a statistically significant. I hope I've understood the contribution, but I think that's what Chippy is trying to imply. Thank you for that observation. So let's move forward on to looking at the appropriate research methodology, corresponding design, and data analysis procedure. All right, thank you so much, Chippy. We really appreciate your input. She's saying, oh, Chippy saying yes, please. All right, so the only way to know the methodology and the corresponding research design is if you identify the variables that are being used. In often cases, she might put the topic or the scenario to be more on the numbers. She might say, like, for example, rules of accounting, the other one the previous year. She might bring you examples that are saying in the quantitative study or in this numerical, those hints to show you that it is actually a quantitative. However, if she doesn't, think about it as, can I quantify the variables in my study? If I can't quantify them, then you're going to use a qualitative. If you can quantify both variables, X and Y variable, then you're going to use a quantitative. If you can't quantify them, qualitative. If you can quantify them, quantitative. So in our, this looks really, really messy. Let me try to extract it. So in our topic, perception of self-efficacy influence, on leadership behavior among bank managers in Lusaka. So what we're looking at here is that we can't really quantify self-efficacy. And if you look at these objectives that we have, I do not know how we can quantify motivation. Maybe leave days, or I don't know, packages, I don't know. But quantifying motivation is really difficult. Quantifying internal resource utilization, maybe you can quantify utility. From an economist perspective, I can tell you we can quantify utility, but still a bit too tricky. Identification level, again, still a bit too tricky. So looking at these topics, I postulate that the only workable methodology here is a qualitative. Even if the course itself is saying quantitative, it's not all the time that you can use quantitative. you only apply a mixed method if you can quantify one variable and can't quantify the other. For example, if we're looking at the effect of the first example I gave on good governance, on economy. Good governance can't be quantified. You can't quantify democracy, okay? But you can quantify economy, the output of the economy. So that's a mixed method where you collect economy quantitatively, data on economy quantitatively, then you connect data on good governance qualitatively. Hence becomes a mixed method. If it's a qualitative, both good governance and economic output will be collected qualitatively. All right. I hope I'm communicating. So having established that, it means that your answer for this part, which asks you the methodology, is that the methodology that will be employed here is a qualitative. I am justifying so. Okay. If you've got any other bringing can come in. So Mr. Katamba is asking that can't resources utilization be measured in monetary terms? Well, yes, they can be measured in monetary terms, but again, I think, like I've always said, justification is where it all comes in. If you justify that you're using a qualitative, a quantitative, meaning you say, I'm using a quantitative research method will be applied because resources will be measured in monetary terms in the study. Because this is a section where she doesn't give you answers to. No, they're not even in the passage. You just gain from the PPTs or the PowerPoints that you've studied and apply them. So yeah, you can measure resource utilization in terms of monetary packages, but bear in mind, okay, you may want to bear in mind also that what we are looking for to measure is not necessarily, it is of course it is of course the specific objectives in the end, but the guiding theme of the paper is to look at the main topic, the main research title, the main topic. So in as much as we would quantify resource utilization, yes. Motivation, not quite. Maybe at identification level, I don't know how it's been brought in the case scenario. Maybe we could quantify that. We are looking at a format called SMART, postulated by Creswell, which says that the objectives must be specific, measurable. I don't know what these are. I've forgotten what AA means, and R in time relevance, I think, whatever this is. So they all have to be measurable in terms of how they are being quantified, or either qualitatively or quantitatively. But ideally, you can notice that some of them are measurable, some of them are not. So still, there is also an aspect of looking at leadership behavior. I don't know how you can quantify behavior, so it still falls into the qualitative on my end. All right, I still leave it for you to come and have a look at it. But I would postulate a qualitative study. I wouldn't go for a mixed methods here, although most students love mixed methods. Then what is the corresponding? I've already justified why it's qualitative. So what is the corresponding research design? So let me make this again. A research design is not mixed. It's not qualitative or quantitative. A design is different from your methodology. The research methodology is the same as the research approach. It's different from your research design. So most students just put what to call this. What's your methodology? They say qualitative. What's your corresponding research design? They just say descriptive. It's not all the time that this can be descriptive. I can say, so the data analysis procedures correspond to the design that you have. If I'm going to say correlation or research design, then the data analysis procedure is going to be a correlational data analysis procedure. If I'm going to use a descriptive research design or a mixed method, if at all I'm quantifying them as an mixed methodology, sequential, quasi-experimental, all those designs. If you look at lecture 6 or 7, I think it must be one of those on research designs. In quantitative, okay, if you're doing a quantitative research, these become different. This would be descriptional, obviously, and there'll be a descriptional data analysis procedure. But in this sense, there are no trends and patterns you're following. I would go for an exploratory research design. Why? Because you're only exploring the factors that are affecting the efficacy. That is a justification. There are factors. Descriptional research design makes you look for or trace the patterns in the behavior. This is normally for quantitative research methods or research approaches. And quasi-experimental doesn't even fall into this. Correlation doesn't even fall into this. Maybe correlation, if you're looking at the relationship in that aspect, yes. But I would go for the exploratory research. Why? Because they're only exploring the factors. Obviously, there is an effect. So I would go for correlation, or maybe I can justify that, as well as the exploratory research design. Obviously, I've told you, if you're going to go for the exploratory research design, the data analysis was going to be an exploratory data analysis. Why? Because you are going to be exploring through, the statistics of the respondents. And obviously, you have to dispatch a questionnaire as you are trying to explain the analysis. That you dispatch a questionnaire, and analysis will be made via SPSS if it's even necessary to mention that. Okay, so I'm going to end here for today. And for this session, in the next session, we're going to focus on these. But just so I could give you an idea of this other question, this is a slide question. I call these slide questions because it's not part of this. So, if you're running out of time, you'd spend a whole time reading this. And then by the time you're coming back here, she asks you, discuss the types of literature review in research. They're not even mentioned here. They're just different from what we already, what have been. So these are slide questions here. If you just see a paragraph too short, just know that it's a slide question. And then she brings these things I've been talking about variables and constructing in research. So somebody wants to see the answers once more. Okay, so these are the answers really. And we can have a look at them. All right, so let me then close this recording.